Hey, hello, how's it going? Welcome back to another Monster Train 2 video. It's me, Cranberry. How's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're having a good day today. Today's video is not the usual generic Let's Play content that we usually do here. Today we're making, I guess, a top 10 video for the relics in Monster Train 2. Thought this would be a fun video. I've gotten a lot of experience in the game so far, and I feel pretty comfortable saying what I think are the best relics in the game. Now, to clarify here, to quantify what we mean exactly by best, there's kind of two main metrics I'm using here. It's general usability, like how often is this relic playable in your run? How often does it end up actually being net positive versus net neutral, or even sometimes net negative, right? What is the ratio? How often it's good for your run? And the other ratio, the other aspect we're using is peak impact. Some relics are situational, but when they are situational, they're incredibly strong, and that's something that we need to take into account here as well, right? It's a bit of a hedging of, like, is this good? How often it's good? When it's good, is it really good, or is it just kind of okay, right? Those are the measure we're using here, right, to determine this tier list, right? So let's open up the artifact list here. Let's pull it up. Right, and we're going to do some honorable mentions here before we get into it too much. I have 3 honorable mentions, and I want to say also, we're excluding the event relics. They're really strong usually. Things like the Looming Dark Shard, a lot of the Balatro event items, things like that, Dante's Candelabra. They feel weird to include here because they're basically things that is not much of a decision. Usually you see them and you take them, right? It's kind of how they work, generally speaking, right? So I don't like including them in this. So instead here, we're going to be talking about Monster Train 1 and 2, mostly Monster Train 2, I think, because a lot of and some of them are Monster Train 1 relics as well here. But yeah, let's just get into it. No event relics, just everything over here. Spoilers: none of the Dragon Horde artifacts make it in here because they're pretty low impact, obviously, right? Let's get into here. A couple honorable mentions. The first one I want to talk about here, and this is maybe a bit of a sleeper pick for a lot of people. I feel like maybe people kind of sleeping on this one a little bit, generally speaking, right? My number 1 honorable mention is the Wanderer's Talisman, right? Now, when I first saw this talisman, when I first saw this relic, I thought, this is terrible. This is horrible. This is a really, really, really bad relic. But the thing about this relic is that it, like many things, there's no negative to taking this. It's not like it's going to negatively impact your run like some relics could in theory, right? But a lot of times, this will bail out a super weak early game run. There are certain Eka, Luna Coven, sometimes Pyre Blood, or Pyreborn, sorry. Pyreborn starts that are really weak early game, and Wanderer's Talisman can carry you through the first 3 fights pretty easily, which is like a huge deal. Now, oftentimes, beyond those first 3 fights, this ends up being worthless, right? But this one relic biding you enough time to get to the mid-game is sometimes super duper very, very impactful and saves your entire run, right? But again, we're talking about two factors here, right? Potential and overall usefulness. Not much potential, actually maybe incredibly low potential, which is what's keeping this thing back. But +5 stats every turn in the early game on all of your units if you're playing, one on each floor, is really, really strong, and this should not be underestimated, is what I'm trying to say here, basically, people. Okay, moving on. These next 2 honorable mentions are should be talked about together here, so we're going to talk about them both, because they're very similar. We have Pyrostone Housing and Lightstone Casing, right? They're neutral relics. They're both in Monster Train 1 and Monster Train 2. They're pretty strong. The issue with Pyrostone Housing and Lightstone Casing is that they are very situational, right? Like, it depends on what your current run is doing. Sometimes, an extra upgrade slot is very impactful. Sometimes it's overkill, right? And it doesn't really actually help your run very much. In addition to this, they require you to get these relics, and then as an additional step, go to the shops and find the upgrades we're looking for. Too much can go wrong with these. The reliability on these relics are just too low. The peak is crazy, but oftentimes you will end up taking one of these in like the mid to late game and just get nothing out of it, basically. So I wanted to point them out here too. Pretty decent. Especially if you see them early, they're very. I would, if we're gun to my head, probably Pyrostone Housing over Lightstone Casing, right? But they're both pretty solid pickups here, I'd say, between the 2 of them. right? On to the real top 10 here. Number 10. If you want to take a guess, you can now. Hey, you know what? Comments. If you want to leave a comment guessing your top 10 before, proceeding in the video, I'd love to see your thoughts here before, going in blind. What you guys are thinking here. I will say it leans a little bit towards Monster Train 2 stuff, and like neutral relics introduced in Monster Train 2 as well, right? But we've got some representation in both games. So without further ado, the number 10 relic for me is Titan's Edict. This is the relic in the Banished clan that gives extra armor per Valor stack, right? A lot of these are pretty good. We should actually just talk about all of them, basically. There's a lot of Valor relics here, right? We've got this one. We've got Angels getting 2 Valor when they move. We've got +1 Valor whenever you gain Valor, right? There's a lot of, I think that's all of them as far as like Valor gains, basically. But there's a lot of good upgrades here, right? The reason why I choose Titan's Edict specifically is that because a lot of times with Valor gaining strategies in Banished, you're putting Valor on the entire floor. But the real point of vulnerability in your build is whoever your frontmost unit is, right? Whoever's the one getting hit that turn, they need to survive and get that armor back. And the nice thing about this is that Titan's Edict does just double your armor gain. So it's much easier to keep that frontmost unit alive with this relic. That's why I rank it the highest out of all three of these, right? Again, some of these are pretty strong. Karmic Sensor, a lot of times your Valor gain is shifting, so this is also a lot of Valor gain usually, especially because on the permascaling fell, this does trigger the permascaling twice, which is really cool too, right? But I think the most consistent and strongest of these is the Titan's Edict, right? That's my thought there, at least. But I honestly wouldn't hate you for picking any of these other Valor relics over this one, right? Honestly, I think this entire top 10 could be in any order. I wouldn't be too angry at you, honestly, right? Coming up next, number 9. Maybe a bit of a controversial pick here, too. Number 9 for me, probably going to be the Razor Thin Crescent here, right? This one is, I think, is one of those relics that has super high potential, but it's not very consistent, but it's consistent enough that it should probably be pretty good, and the peaks of it are just kind of insane, right? So the big saving grace for this relic is the fact that Moonlit Glaive exists, right? You can be playing a run that has access to no Mage Blade units, right? You might not have Selene Acolyte, you might not have Ardoon, right? You might not have Moonguard. You might be missing the big payoffs for this, right? But even then, if you're missing all of those units, you can still have Moonlit Glaive show up pretty often on your runs, as long as you're like heavily favoring arms shops and armories, right? It's pretty easy to find one, not guaranteed obviously, but as long as you find some way to pay this off, it will usually be incredibly powerful on your run, right? Very good. And it's also the nice thing about it too, and maybe this is a little bit biased, I guess, it's in a sea of dog shit relics in the Luna Coven clan. Most of these relics are just so bad. Like Moonstone, I don't know what you're doing. Lantern is just kind of bad. Like, these are all just kind of pretty bad for the most part. Bad to middling. So having one in a sea of dog shit relics just feels nicer, I guess. So that's why Razor Thin Crescent is here. Very good one if you ask me. Up next, number 8. And we should talk about number 8 and number 7 together, honestly, because they're very similar to the Pyrus and Housing Lightstone Casing. They're two kind of halves of the same effect. We have, up next here, we have Attuned Whetstone and Dante's Footstool. Specifically, Footstool at 8 and Whetstone at 7, right? It's a very tough call to make between the two of them. They're both very strong. If you don't know, I guess here we should hover over them. Dante's Footstool, on deployment phase, you get a room card from your deck. The room costs 0. And then a Whetstone, get an equipment from your deck, reduces cost to 0, right? The reason why I think these are so good is that they are a combination of resource cheating. I mean, I guess it's just two different types of resource cheating, in that it effectively draws you an extra card during deployment, right? It makes a card deployable, but then it also makes the card free to play, so you're cheating on mana during the deployment phase. It's a very powerful effect on cards that are usually pretty, like, medium to high impact cards, right? Equipments are usually very strong. If you have an equipment, it's probably a pretty important part of your build, and even if it's not, you can see this and then just try to draft an equipment, and then it's just free value, basically, right? And then Footstool as well, same thing, right? Inferno Room is obviously very good with Footstool. But even then, like on certain clans, Mushy Room, Footstool is very good. There's a lot of good things going for it here. I did almost consider Manifold Mirror in this slot as well. The problem with Manifold Mirror is that usually all of the rooms being the same room is kind of overkill. You usually just really need one room. And the reason why I specifically put Whetstone ahead of Footstool here is the fact that you can merge equipment. So you can take two really expensive equipments, merge them together, and then Whetstone will make them 0 cost as well. So you can cheat on like 5 or 6 mana with Whetstone and then also like get some card advantage. The only downside, the reason why these guys aren't higher is because of how these interact with other equipments in your deck. It causes some weird friction where, like, if you have an equipment and it already is deployable, you can't use Whetstone with it. If you have multiple equipments, you have to make the other equipments deployable so that way you can Whetstone the one you specifically want. Same for Dante's Footstool and rooms, right? So there's a little bit of weird friction there in deck building. But ultimately, they're really strong and they're really good, and the effect is usually... It's an example of, like, worst case scenario, it does nothing for you, but best case scenario, it gives you a very strong effect, right? Very high potential, very high floor as well, basically, because it's really easy to get some sort of payoff for these. And even if it's not a great payoff, it's still usually pretty impactful, right? Very good there. Very good between those two. Up next, we have... Maybe, I would not be shocked if this is actually the most controversial pick here on this list. Coming in at number 6, we have Emblem of the Exiles. Oh, I keep messing up there. There we go. Emblem of the Exiles, right? This is a relic from Monster Train 1. If you didn't know, and maybe my memory's a little bit hazy on this, in Monster Train 1, I believe Emblem gave you 5 HP on the front unit per turn. In this game, it's giving plus 15 on the front unit of every floor every turn. Friendly units, not enemy units, I guess, right? This is basically like Wanderer's Talisman, but without the downside of only having one unit. And you can make the argument that plus 15 health is better than plus 5, plus 5. I don't think I would make that argument. I think on average, I would prefer plus 5, plus 5. But, like, this is, like, really, really overtuned. Not really overtuned, I guess I should say, because it's not the best relic in the entire game, in my opinion. But this is a very impactful... especially in the early game relic, and even in the late game, it ends up doing pretty good work, right? Especially on, like, endless units, right? If you're using some sort of endless tank, Greed Dragon line or whatever, although Greed Dragon's usually overkill with something like this. But if you're doing some sort of, like, endless tank plan, when the unit comes back endless, they retain those health increases, right? End up being very, very good. Just a very solid relic. Very good value. Again, same logic before. Actually, pretty kind of opposite logic before. Very, very low potential as far as brokenness, but just incredibly high baseline floor. Right? This thing is just incredibly strong to begin with, right? Doesn't need any build around for it. No, like, specific use case where it's really good. This is just a very strong relic pretty much all the time. Right? We have another one that kind of fits into the same category here. In that, like, no matter what you're doing in this clan, it's going to probably be pretty good. It's not guaranteed. But up next here, we have Founding Seal. Founding Seal is one of my favorite relics from Monster Train 1. It, in my mind, maintains being pretty good in this game still. I like it a lot. One thing I want to point out is that in this game, there's a couple of units, a couple of new units that do also have incant triggers. We can show them real quick here. We have, in the Pyreborn, we have my good friend, Magma Cultist. I like him quite a bit. Where'd he go? Magma Cultist? There he is. Right, Magma Cultist getting double incants is usually pretty impactful. Going from 1 to 2 and then with dualism going from 2 to 4, doubling the effect is very good, right? You do enjoy seeing that quite a lot. And then we have in the Lazarus League clan, we just have Arechi. Arechi, so we can show the specific line here for Arechi. We have this one here, Arechi, which has incant, right, for instability, which is pretty good to double. And then we have one more unit in the Lazarus League clan. We have the Overworked Assistant here, right? So we have a decent number of new units in this game that also benefit from incant. So we have a couple more cross-clan synergies than we used to have in the previous game, right? But just in general, I just really think the double incanting is strong still. A lot of the incanters in Monster Train 2 got their baseline incanting upgraded. Look at, for example, where are they? Nameless Siren, right? Nameless Siren used to be, I think, 2 rage on incant. Now it's 3 rage. Siren used to be +2/+2, I believe, on incant. Now it's +3/+3. The fact that these baseline units also are just now getting more per incant is pretty nice to see. Also, you obviously have things like, you know, loads of total. Well, I actually forgot one more incanter too. Forgot one more incanter in the Under Legion. We have Madam's Lion's Mane here. Everbloom is very powerful, and getting double incant spawns is also crazy, right? So we get even more synergy there too between this. So I think Founding Seal, obviously if you're playing this, you're already playing Stygian, it's very good. But do not sleep on the potential cross-clan synergies with this relic. I think it's still really, really, really powerful. Right? So that was number 5, I believe. We have number 4 coming up next here. And that is, sorry, I was scrolling over in my MS Paint file of all of the various relics here. Okay, number 4, in my opinion here, is Artificial Pyrostone. Right? It's a very simple relic. It's just +3 energy during your deployment phase. I just like this a lot. It's very simple, but it's a very flexible resource, especially because we talked about, you know, these two before here, right? We talked about Attuned Whetstone and Dante's Footstool. The fact that this is effectively, in my head, 1/2 of their effect, but it can be used on either, or it could be also just used on more expensive deployment units, is just very strong to me, right? The ceiling on this is pretty low. You can't do any awesome crazy plays with it usually, but even then you also kind of just can. Like, it kind of can't be slept on how important it is to get a strong deployment phase in this game, and +3 energy is so much. It's so much, man. It's a I mean, it's a lot. Also, shout out fun combo here, Artificial Pyrostone with Unbroken Horn. If you have excess energy in deployment, this will hold it over for you, right? You get to maintain that energy into your first turn. Doesn't matter too much; it's just a fun little thing. But yeah, Artificial Pyrostone is really good. You can make equipments deployable, you can make rooms deployable, and then play them with this. You can just have like a really big floor, right? I find myself in this game almost every single run at least taking 1 upgrade to my deployment energy via the major boss upgrades. Almost every run I take at least this once. So this being, and predominantly, the purpose is predominantly for the deployment phase, right? So the fact that this is effectively 1.5 of the major boss upgrades in the deployment phase, it's just very powerful. There are a lot of runs where I would take Pyrostone, Artificial Pyrostone, over the major boss upgrade, Hell's Fire, whatever it's called, I believe the name of it is, right? The one that just gives you +1 energy and +1 deployment energy, right? This is debatably better. I wouldn't take it usually, but there are definitely use cases where this is going to be a better relic between the two, which is kind of nutty. That's how strong I think this thing is, basically. It's very good. Very, very, very good, right? Up next, number 3, and again, I said there's going to be a lot of neutrals in here because a lot of the neutrals are just very strong. Up next here for number 3, maybe another controversial pick. I don't think so. I'm not sure. We've got Emot Tome. Emot Tome is in the same idea of this being very flexible, right? Basically, the way this card reads is your best card in your hand every turn you get an extra copy of. There is the caveat of having to play it first. Sometimes that's annoying for sequencing cards. Sometimes you don't want to play your best card first for whatever reason. But usually it's not that big of an issue. And getting to play your best card twice is really good. It's very easy to make a card 0 cost, and then you get 2 copies of it, right? It's very easy to do a lot of very, very, very strong stuff with Emot Tome. In the Titan fight, getting to Pyrelight twice is very strong. You get to kill Dominion a lot faster than normal with this, right? It does so many disgustingly strong things. Now, to be fair to it, sometimes the impact on this is pretty low, right? Sometimes your spells all suck. I've had many decks before where my spells are not very good. But even then, worst case scenario, you still have that plan of using this to accelerate the Dominion kill in the Titan fight, right? So even the floor of this card is pretty high, and the ceiling is also incredibly high. This is just a very flexible, good in almost every single run, high impact relic pretty much for you almost every time you take it, right? Very, very strong. Up next for me, number 2, and this is kind of like I honestly, I think both of these could have made it in here, but I really only wanted to pick one of the 2 of them here. I don't know why, but I ended up picking Progress Pacemaker here for my number 2 relic in the game. Mixing an extra time every time you mix is really good. Mix is a very strong mechanic. Arguably, Secret Ingredient is the strongest starter card in the entire game. I think sometimes I do, but I rarely ever remove them from my deck. They're very good, and being able to mix twice is also very impactful. For me, it was between Pacemaker and Inga's Beaker, but I think, honestly, Inga's Beaker is cool because it gives you kind of more or less guaranteed on what you hit, but I think just the sheer volume of extra mixes from Pacemaker is just better, right? Just being able to mix twice, even because like oftentimes you just only get one mix per turn. Now I should also clarify here, right? If you're playing Baron Grail, this is probably a pretty bad relic for you, right? There is certain situations, right, where it ends up being pretty low impact, but even then, you still have access to the potion kit. You still have mixology, right? You still can mix and make this pretty good for you still. But it is, again, an important caveat, definitely worse there. But in my opinion, the impact on this card is so high. Again, as long as you have mixes in your deck, the floor is super high, the ceiling is really high. It's a very, very strong relic, in my opinion. I feel like if I have mix as a starter and I have Progress Pacemaker, the run feels almost over to me. Maybe I'm hyping up a little too much. I wouldn't be shocked if people don't agree with me on this one, but like I just like Pacemaker a lot. And finally, my number 1 pick here for one of the best relics in the entire game. Again, as always, debatable. I go Pyretap here. Pyretap is infinite energy all the time. That's really good. Now, obviously, you can't use that infinite energy on X-cost cards. That is tragic, I know. I agree. But this is infinite energy all the time, except for X-cost cards, and that's really good. Everything that I said, basically, about Artificial Pyrostone applies to Pyretap. And then, in addition to that, you can cast this on all the other cards in your deck still, too. And you know, all it costs is a little bit of health. It's a little bit of health, who cares? Realistically, you're not going to play every single card using this. You're going to use this when you need to use it, usually on deployment, but then also on, like, you know, critical turns where you don't have enough energy to play all your cards. But I just find Pyretap to be... I don't even get me started on Fire's Greed, obviously, right? That's, like, super high roll potential. But even without Fire's Greed in mind, the ceiling on this card is immensely high, and then the same as before, like, just, like, the floor is... You get to do whatever you want in deployment. You get to play any card anywhere, basically, right? You get to go double space upgrade. You can just super stack a floor. And, like, throughout the course of the run, you're going to lose, like, 50 health. Which is an issue, right? For sure. But, like, it's infinite energy, man. It's so good. It's too strong. And keep in mind, there are certain runs where this isn't going to do much for you, right? You might see this late into the game, and you already have sculpted your run around your current energy constraints, right? And in that situation, it won't be that good. But even then, like, you know what I've done with this card, with this relic a lot? I've had many runs where I've just used Pyretap to remove Calcified Embers from my deck. And even then, it feels pretty good. Even in, like, the worst case scenarios for this, it's pretty good still. Which, kind of, to me at least, is crazy. I don't know. I think this is very strong. But hey, listen, if you disagree, please leave a comment. Tell me how you feel differently. Tell me what you think is right or wrong about this top 10 list of relics. Some other honorable mentions here, I think, which I didn't include. Again, Inga's Beaker here is really good. Gurg's Go is a solid one. So is Double Summons. Keep in mind, Summon's pretty cool because there's a lot of new summon triggers in the game with, like, especially like some of the mushroom guys. They have a lot of, like, new summon triggers as well. But Ashes. I feel like Imps is kind of worse in general, so I didn't want to include this. So it felt like kind of like, eh. I think also Volo's Tuning Fork is worth considering too for this list as well. Split Anvils kind of fell off a little bit. I think the amount of times you end up taking energy makes Split Anvil just kind of obsolete. Although I did take a lot of other energy gaining relics, I suppose, here, but Split Anvil just doesn't seem super good anymore in the current meta, I guess. Beyond that, what else is really good here? I don't know. That's kind of about it as far as the actual takeable ones. I don't. A lot of these are really strong, but they're really just kind of only good early, and then like fall off really hard. Like gel transfuser. If you take this early, you can build around it, and it's really strong. Oftentimes late game, this is kind of worthless. Same with Blood of the Apex. Same with Actually, no, I should have maybe considered Ancient Roots a little bit more highly. Ancient Roots is pretty strong too. The only problem I have with it is that it does not work on deployment. It is not impactful, and it's only for your normal spells, but it is like a lot of mana gained per turn off this usually. Maybe this should have made it in there. I think that's actually pretty reasonable too. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.